The second annual Pod Bowl is in the books, and the Vikings again beat the 49ers in Minnesota. Let's dissect the game and take a look at what else happened in week 2 before previewing next week's biggest games and giving out some awards and picks. Joey, obviously a very busy week for you with and without football. You had a little phone issue. You had a little off the grid there while getting that fixed. I didn't really get your like live reactions as it was happening. I kept texting you, and evidently you told me later you had your phone had taken a dump. But all throughout the game, I had very similar reactions to most Viking fans. At the beginning, I'm like, okay, we have come out the gate strong. This is a competitive game. Then I believe I texted you, this is going to be a really low-scoring game. Our defense looks really good. And then obviously the block punt changed things. From then on, it was really just a game where we kind of dominated. You came back into it, and I thought there was a chance you're going to make a comeback in the fourth quarter. But for the most part, I'm on cloud 9 because I think we outplayed the best roster in the NFL. What was your take on that game after watching it back?
Yeah, no phone. Some of it was actually kind of nice. Some of it wasn't. But yeah, got none of those texts. Which the way the game was going, wasn't mad. Wasn't mad. I wasn't getting them. Yeah, my take is I'd like to not go to Minnesota ever again. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
32 years without a win.
Crazy. In the moment, I didn't feel like the Niners played that poorly. They're just getting outplayed. I didn't think a couple turnovers, but like we also forced a couple turnovers. By the way, I mean, we lost the game, but Fred Warner had a Hall of Fame day.
Unbelievable.
Like red zone pick. He forced 2 fumbles. He had a sack. He forced a fumble in week 1. I mean, this guy, it was going to be 27-7 if he doesn't punch that ball out.
Yeah. Or even more if he doesn't pick Darnold. Yeah.
He picked off Darnold in the red zone. Hall of Fame day. Gold jacket.
It's great. If you took someone who doesn't know any of the players, say they know about football, but they don't know any of the players. If you sat them down and had them watch that game, they'd be like 18 in purple and 54 in white. Those guys are the best players on the field. It was so obvious.
Yeah, he had a huge day. Everyone else, I mean, again, I don't think they played that poorly. You can't give up that many sacks. I think it was 6 or 7 sacks. And yeah, I mean, just block punt. I mean, you can't. I mean, you get a punt blocked on the road. Like, I mean, just might as well just. It doesn't feel like it's 10 points, but it feels like it's 10 points.
You did hold us to a field goal after that, and that worried me a little bit. But yeah, that was a turning point.
So we were 1 for. I think I saw we were 1 for 3 on 4th down, and I think on 3rd down we were 2 of 10.
Yeah,
I think Minnesota was like darn near 60% on 3rd down.
Including the Darnold throw to Naylor there in the 4th quarter that really kind of iced the game.
That was the scene, right?
Yeah.
Through like 3, a bunch. That was my frustration. Is like it was about to be 27-7, right? And then the Niners actually go like 99.5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, it's only down 6. I don't feel like it's like you get to stop. Like it's a touchdown and kick the ball and like Houdini out of here with a win. And I'm like, no, Jefferson, Addison's out. Like, can we get a freaking stop?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Like, give up
Jalen Naylor.
And it's like, yeah, because that was 3rd down, right? That was like 3rd and 8, I think, 3rd and something like that. 3rd and
it was more. It was like 3rd and 13 or something like that.
Yeah,
and the pass traveled 20 plus yards.
I think it was right through like Jair Brown.
Yeah. I was going to say it's your safety that plays opposite of
same thing. I mean, the safeties too. I mean, on the 97, what was it? Touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Which of course is like as a Niner fan, you're just like, you know what? It looks terrible, but like emotionally, I'd kind of rather give up 97-yard touchdown pass than like watch the team go like 97 yards. And you're like, okay, we just messed up 1 play, not like 12 plays or something.
Yeah.
But then like, the same safeties couldn't cover later in the game. I mean, yeah, it's crazy because it could have been. In some ways, I feel like just one stop there, I'm like, oh, we're driving right back down, kicking extra point game winner. But then the other part of me is like, if Fred Warner doesn't have 2 red zone turnovers, it's like 35-7.
Yeah, that was the craziest thing for me is going into that. I think it was 2nd and goal at like the 3. We hand it off to Jones, and he's about to score. At that point, if he doesn't fumble and have it picked up in the end zone or picked up at the half-yard line, we are going to win that game by margin. We end up only winning by 6, and it really needed an unbelievable conversion there on third down from Darnold to Naylor. And then again, I think we had another third down drive. Then you guys went down, got the field goal, didn't get the onside kick.
Like not third and short. Like, I mean, they were third and decent.
I mean, we had to make plays on offense to get it over the line. But again, Warner, best player on the field, the red zone pick of Darnold. He was trying to hit Naylor on a seam, and he just cut in front of it. Beautiful play. And then we could have blown him out, which is insane considering I think we opened as 6.5 point underdogs. It closed at like 4.5 after it was confirmed McCaffrey was out. One thing I want to call out here is I'm taking a victory lap on social media on our YLTFGB accounts. I told you guys in August this was going to be one of the 8 to 10 best defenses in the league. That may have been conservative. Like, if you watch that game, really until the fourth quarter when the Niners had to just pull out all the stops and no huddle, let Purdy cook type situation, I mean, we were just getting in the backfield on every play like that. And this is a good Niner team, very good Niner, offensive coaching staff. After the game, you saw Brock Purdy come up to Brian Flores and say, "Crazy scheme, man." I mean, I am. Oh,
I thought he said, "I hate Tua too."
Yeah, that's what you read lips. That's what you saw.
Yeah, that's what I got. I said, I heard he say, "Hey, how about that concussion again?" No.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. Brock Purdy's lost only 2 games to NFC opponents, and they're both Minnesota.
Yeah, both in Minnesota. The Niners haven't won in Minnesota since 1992, and I'm like, man, that is crazy. You look back at a lot of those games.
Is that 9?
Yeah, I think it may be 10. This was the 10th one. I look back at a lot of memorable ones. The Brett Favre, Greg Lewis touchdown with 2 seconds left in 2009 was kind of the game that started the Brett Favre era in Minnesota, because people forget his first 2 games with the Vikings, it was just handed off to Peterson. Like, he barely threw the ball, and we were like, oh, this guy's old, he's cooked. And then from that moment on, it was just like an MVP caliber season. And then all these, games I think of growing up in the Bay Area as a Vikings fan, every time we played the Niners, I was like, oh, we lose in San Francisco / Santa Clara, we win in Minnesota. It's a classic matchup in that way. Let's put that behind us. Early regular season game. We'll see you guys in late January, hopefully.
Oh, you might.
Yeah, maybe more like early January when we're the 6 and you're the 2 or the 3.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I'm
not going to sell this Brian Flores defense short. We'll see you in January.
I'd love to see all the Minnesota people, like when McCarthy went down. Right, you're just like, oh, season. It's like I said the same thing last year, right? Kirk went down. I'm like, you guys hung in there until probably like last week,
yeah, it was like week 16. We kind of started to nosedive, but we held in there. Obviously, last year is the comp. We'll probably finish somewhere like that, 7-10, 8-9. Or if this is the kind of defense,
7-10 after starting 2, and that's disappointment.
Well, but I'm saying, you look at this team as a whole, if you're like, Sam Darnold would have to play really, really well for this team to be like 10,
maybe he doesn't.
Wins. But my point is, the 2017 team led by Case Keenum, very similar team where it has elite wide receivers, decent running back.
Didn't they go like 13?
They went 13-3 because they had by far the number 1 ranked total and scoring defense under Mike Zimmer. If Flores can get us to a defense where we're somewhere in that neighborhood, I'm not saying number 1, but maybe top 3, top 4, then we can start talking about, oh, is this the new Case Keenum 2017 season where we really do have a shot? Beating the Niners is a good start. Let's see if we can beat CJ Stroud. That'll really get the juices flowing there in Minneapolis.
Hey, they didn't beat the doors off Chicago. That game's in Minnesota, right?
It is in Minnesota, and they're going to be featured in our picks later because we're 3-point underdogs, which I thought was a little surprising off of that performance that Houston had on Sunday Night Football. Let's talk a little bit about last week, and then we'll preview some games next week. Obviously, the biggest story in the NFL over the last week is Tua's injury. Brutal to watch. I was watching at my parents' house. I was up in the Bay Area for a week for work, And I was like, oh, cool. I'll go to my parents and we'll have a nice dinner and we'll watch the football game. Literally maybe 6-7 plays after I turn on, I was like, oh no, like he's doing the fencing thing again. And I'm like, oh
That's
man,
really tough. That's a really tough watch.
Oh God, it reminds me a lot of. I mean, I was really young when it happened, but when Steve Young had those concussions at the end of his career, and you're like, it's unanimous. Everybody's like, man, he's got to step away for a while, if not for good. What was your take on Thursday Night Football? Because that's all everybody was talking about.
Well, I guess the number one story is like, what does he look like? Does he look like if he comes back, like? Mm-hmm. Or does he look like a dad or like a husband? Like, I mean, literally, there's nothing, he'll talk to, I'm sure, a few doctors, at least his family, everything. Like,
he was placed on IR, so he's got at least, 4 to 5 weeks.
The crazy thing is like everyone's, oh, NFL and concussion. I'm like, I don't know if this is a concussion problem. It seems like a Tua problem. Like, you never want to get concussion, but I don't see other guys doing what he's doing.
Oh, very few quarterbacks, yeah.
And like that hit he delivered or took, was not much. And,
by NFL standards, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like if that does it, I mean.
So the most recent news we saw, he has no immediate plans to retire. He's going to meet with neurologists and his family for the next 4 or 5 weeks. McDaniel said, take as much time as you need. I've seen the discourse on ESPN, podcasts, whatever, range from he needs to retire right now, which is what Antonio Pierce, the Raiders head coach, said, to all the way on the other end where people talk about, hey, these MMA and wrestling and boxing guys get concussed multiple times a week and they just keep coming back, to I've seen some takes where people go, hey, he's going to leave $150 million plus on the table if he just retires now. So, like, there is a lot of different angles that people come at this from. I think it's just one of those where nobody should really talk about it for the next 4 weeks, and then he's got to come out and either do a press conference or through his agent just be like, this is my game plan. Because right now you get –
I mean, it's just so – I feel like it's so pointless. Anyone – like, he should do what he wants to do. If he wants to quit –
if he wants to do Andrew Luck, do it. Yeah.
Like, he wants to quit, great, man. Like, because – he's gonna worry. If he keeps playing, he's gonna worry about it. Even when he retires, if he's fine when he retires, when he's 45, 50, he's gonna be like, man, when are these concussions gonna like really, even before you start exhibiting the, long-term severe effects of it. And then I got a hard time telling him like, oh, you should retire. Like, oh, like this guy's probably got up at 5 a.m. every day of his life to weight lift and train and do this. And to just to tell him like, no, if he wants to keep doing it, if you want to keep doing it and you want to, I'm not going to say die on the field. I mean, but if you want to do it and you weigh the risk and you feel like it's a
only he can make the decision.
Yeah. I mean,
all these people spouting off about it, it's like it's so pointless. You're right. But that's been literally the number one topic in sports for the last week. And I'm like, man, let's just let that simmer for 4 or 5 weeks and let him tell everybody what his plan is after he gets off IR.
That was the number one. The other story about that game is Miami was getting rolled.
Yeah, but like, literally the number one story in the NFL, the play before that happened was, oh God.
I mean, Tua was having a horrible night. And again, I'm not gonna say all his fault. I saw a couple of the throws. I mean, it looks like the receivers don't look like maybe they're all on the same page. I get, but still, it's on you, the quarterback. And what are we doing?
That was like the Levis one against the Bears in Week 1. It was like the second you see the ball come out, you're like, oh God, like what in the world? And then obviously the concussion just takes that storyline away. So. Bills are flying high. Good for them. I think before the season, I was one of those people who didn't think they were going anywhere. I thought this was kind of the end of the McDermott era, but clearly they're going to win that division. I don't think there's any
James
doubt.
Cook can play. He's helped big time.
He was the best player in that game. They really didn't have to do much with Allen, given the way Miami kept giving him the ball. So tough tough break for Tua, tough break for McDaniel, tough break for Miami fans in general. I picked them to make the Super Bowl. That's all out the window. They probably aren't even going to win more than 6-7 games if it's Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley, competing for quarterbacks.
Hey, Jimmy to Miami?
I saw a rumor floated by ESPN, Matthew Stafford to Miami. That makes a hell of a lot of sense, but who knows if the Rams would be willing to punt on this season after all of those injuries they suffered. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's talk about just a little bit of the week 2 in review before we preview next week. So biggest upset of the week, the Raiders stunned the Ravens. I bet on Baltimore. I had them in a survivor pool. It was devastating. I think they were 8.5 to 10-point favorites over the course of the week. Everybody just said, "Oh, tough Thursday night loss on the first game of the season. The Raiders will come home, or the Ravens will come home, and they'll just hammer them." And it looked like that was what was going to happen. They were ahead 10 in the fourth, and then yet again another. This is a theme of the last few seasons for Baltimore. Another fourth quarter collapse by Harbaugh and Jackson, and the Raiders just come in there with Minshew and steal a game. That was a wild one. Between the Raiders stunning the Ravens and the Saints just absolutely dog walking the Cowboys, what was your kind of main takeaway from last week of those really shocking score lines?
I mean, yeah, the Saints might be like a sneaky 1 seed. I mean, if you look at their schedule, if they keep, granted, they played Carolina week 1, but I mean, Dallas is a good team. I mean, I don't think they're like
New Orleans was 6.5, 7-point dog in Dallas.
Yeah, and the Ravens. I mean, that's a loss that sends you spiraling. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, isn't it Ravens Dallas?
At Dallas. Yep. This week.
Like,
oh boy.
And I think I could be wrong, but I think I saw that's Brady again.
It is. It's the Fox's America's Game of the Week, so everybody's going to be watching that one with the season on the line. Like, Baltimore goes from, is Isaiah Likely's foot in, we're going to win week 1, to, if we lose this game against Dallas, it's over already 3 weeks in. Like, you'd have to go 11-3 the rest of the season to have a shot in that division with the way things are.
They could potentially be 3 games behind Pittsburgh after 3 weeks.
With Justin Fields. Unbelievable. Obviously,
Pittsburgh plays the Chargers, and
that's going to be a really good one next week. There are next week several 2-0 versus 2-0 matchups, which is cool. I feel like a lot of the time we don't get those, like, all right, let's see what teams really are good matchups this early, but there's a bunch of those, so that'll be fun. Wanted to talk about that Browns-Jags game. It's clear to me that Trevor Lawrence is not that guy. I mean, we've been saying it on this.
I thought he was. They named the stadium after him.
Yeah.
I thought you had to do something to get that.
Yeah. Got a, what was it, $180-something million deal. Clearly, he's that guy. I watched that game. I watched the game against Miami. There is no difference in year 4 for him than there was last year, the year before. Yes, he's better than he was during the horrible Urban Meyer year, but I mean, after watching that game against Deshaun Watson, who has nothing left in the tank, against a Browns defense that is pretty damn good, and Myles Garrett is quite good, but this is a game as a 3-point favorite at home after losing to Miami in a disappointing game that you got to show up. And other than his one pass to Brian Thomas, who looks electric, by the way, he is not that guy. That was
honestly, like, between him and like, again, I think it's a little early on Jordan Love, but like him, like Tua, like these contracts just make me want to barf. Like
Daniel Jones, Gino, yeah. I mean, Gino.
Like, but even Daniel Jones at 40 million. It's like, you mean to tell me that he's like, Daniel Jones is paid more than double than Christian McCaffrey? I know he's hurt right now, but like, like just something like don't do it. Like, it's, I don't blame the cap rules. I don't blame Daniel Jones. I don't blame Trevor Lawrence. It's like, like Dallas, like, we'll see what you get with Dak. You just came home and got
4 and 240
by Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Like $60 million. Like, what do you like? with Dak, with somebody the end result. Like there's no like at least with Jordan Love, I think okay, we don't know
There's some upside.
Like there's a big sample size on Dak. Like this is pretty much it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say he can't reach a conference championship. I'm not saying, he can't. I want to be in a league where a guy with the talent like Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl. You build around all that, but absolute diarrhea down his leg last year in the playoffs. And I'll defend him. He at least gets there. And I know Trevor won that one game that the Chargers just vomited all over themselves in the playoffs. But what are we doing? I don't. I hate it. And then the stadium. Now we're getting the stadium named that. I know it was all a joke, but I don't.
He's just not a very good player. And you're starting to see it with other, quarterbacks of college super teams. Looking at you, Caleb Williams. Looking at you, Bryce Young. When you're playing with Caleb Williams played with elite wide receivers. Bryce Young played with elite wide receivers and an elite offensive line. Trevor Lawrence played with one of the best college football teams in the history of the game. When you get to the NFL, you got to put in the work or you're –
I thought that would apply to C.J. Stroud, but he broke that.
Well, Stroud and Burrow seem to be the exceptions.
Even Burrow, I know he's pretty good. He's better than all these guys, but –
Not a good start to the season for him. We got to talk about that Cincinnati just absolute pants wetting, bed shitting in that final drive. You get Mahomes on multiple 4th and 10 plus, and it's can you make a stop? Your season is on the line. Some would say maybe a little bit of ref help there. I think it was clearly passing.
I thought it was a good call.
Yeah, it was a good call. But, you had him 2 or 3 times to win the game, much like the Niners in the Super Bowl last year, where it's make a stop. Lou Anarumo and that defense, Burrow did enough. The team did enough. Make a stop, and they couldn't. And it's man, now they're looking at, a must-win game just like Baltimore has, where it's season's on the line. I'm going to pick against KC this week, just as a teaser for the picks of the week. They have not looked good these first 2 weeks. They've looked fine, but it reminds me a lot of those Cavs and Warriors teams of previous years where it's
they're not going to fool me.
They're gearing it down.
They're not fooling me this year. They fooled me last year. I thought they were not good.
They're just a team that they're I think they're keeping Trevor. They're keeping Travis Kelce in the garage until the playoffs.
They might be bored.
Yeah.
That's just
Pacheco's
hurt. The Warriors got bored in their runs. I'm sure LeBron gets bored sometimes when he, not with the Lakers anymore, but the Cavs and they're not fooling me. Nope. They'll be.
We all know your game. Sunday Night Football last week. We were just talking about it. Houston is a team that both you and I picked to go deep in the playoffs. We love Stroud. We love DeMeco Ryans. They looked like shit on Sunday Night Football last week. There's no way around it. The first half, they were good. Second half, just awful.
How about Azeez Al-Shire just throwing haymakers?
Yeah. You probably were watching that whoa, where was that fire the last few
Well, he's
years?
behind Dre Greenlaw, who's a walking 15-yard penalty. So, no, the Texans are weirdly, they can't score.
Yeah, Fairbairn's their best player. He's bombing 59-yarders all over the place.
Yeah. But no, Caleb Williams.
Getting killed.
I know he was getting killed. But there were a couple, you saw it too. DJ Moore, that one, he'd run it, kind of back shoulder it, and the ball's nowhere close.
Not even close.
And he took off his helmet, looked pissed. I'm dude, we're at week 2. I know it's not pretty right now, but it's week 2.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying this is, essentially extended preseason with how little they play these guys in the preseason now. I get it. Early returns on really all of the rookie quarterbacks this year, really bad. Jaden Daniels, fine. Hasn't turned the ball over yet. He's been okay. Every time I watch him run, I think he's going to get absolutely killed. He's so skinny. He runs upright. I'm like, this is going to be RG3 all over again. But Williams, awful. Nix, awful. McCarthy, hurt. Penix, not playing. I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Like, really bad.
I don't know. Maybe every single draft's not going to be like 4 quarterbacks in the top 7.
It shouldn't be.
Like, we're just taking better players.
As of right now, Jaden Daniels is the only one that looks any good. And I'm like, maybe we go 1 for 4, 1 for 5 there. Who knows? One more game to talk about, and then we'll get to week 3. Monday night Kirko, baby. I can't believe it.
That had to feel good.
Oh, after going 0-9 in his first 9 Monday night games, he's 3-0 in his last 3. Good for him. Good win.
That had to feel really good.
Yeah. Great comeback. Everybody's shitting on him this week. He can't run play action. He can't move. He's not healthy. He's too old. That was an unbelievable drive to win the game for them.
Monday, ironically, my power went out for a bit. And I had to work after that. I literally caught the last drive. Like, I saw the drop, and then like in the last drive. That was
Yeah. Barkley's drop.
Like, amazing hat trick the week before, and now you're like, catch the freaking ball. Like,
that's Philly.
I mean,
like, fuck this guy,
right? I mean, it's shit like and you know what I hate too is like you hear like, oh, like they should have ran the ball, they should have like, oh, like the Sirianni. I'm like, they seem like they drew up a pretty good play for a pretty good player to catch a pretty easy pass.
It hit him right in the hands. What more can you do?
Like,
and I'm a Hurts hater. What more can you do?
I mean, I don't like putting it on one guy. Like, I'm sure there's other guys could have. Like, I hate because it doesn't do any good. Like, I don't like a kicker misses a game-winning kick. Like, that's a hard job. But like this one, I'm like,
make the catch, man.
Can we catch the ball?
Yeah.
Like, but hey, even the bigger problem is Philly's defense looks just as bad.
Yes.
Like as last year, they took 2 corners. They took Cooper, big fan, and Mitchell, and that last drive was pathetic.
Absolutely carved.
Big Fangio, I mean, no pressure. And Kirk was, I mean, they got down there so quick.
Yeah.
No timeouts.
No timeouts and a lot of time to spare.
Big play Slay, big whiff. Drake London, boop, boop, like not even close.
Yeah. Yeah, that game really made me believe in Atlanta.
No timeouts. They went down there so quick. Philly had time.
Yeah. It was like they got the ball with like maybe it was like a minute 52, something like that. And you look away and then you look up. There's 33 seconds left. They're at like the 6. You're like, what? Like, how did that happen? Good for them. Good for Atlanta. Good for Raheem Morris. Everybody was willing to just dump that team and be like, they're toast. A good win.
There are a lot of teams like week 1, you're like, okay, or like, oh, long here, and then after week 2, it's completely flipped.
Yep.
Like Atlanta, you're like, oh my god, like is Michael Penix playing like in 2 weeks? To like Kirk is back.
The division is back.
Philly's like Saquon we are back, and then they're like Saquon catch the damn ball.
Or we're gonna run you out of town. That's the NFL in a nutshell, man. Let's preview next week real quick before we get into your bum of the week and some picks. Vikings host Houston, huge game, tough test for the new Viking D and Sam Darnold. We're 3-point dogs at home. I got to tell you, I like the spot. Houston has not looked great. I mean, they barely squeaked by Indy, and if we saw anything from Indy against Green Bay last week, it's that's not a very good football team. And the Bears, I think, are probably one of the 6 or 7 worst teams in the NFL, and Houston barely, got by them. I got to say I like the spot. I think as long as Jefferson plays, which it looks like he's going to, looks like Addison might play too, I really think we can, put up 23 to 27 points. I think we can get this one home.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, you go lose McCarthy and potentially start 3-0 after wins over Niners and Houston.
I'm going to be going to the game when they come on Thursday Night Football to LA to play the Rams.
I was going to ask. I thought, is it the Rams or Chargers?
It's the Rams, and it goes. So we play this week against Houston, then we play Detroit, then we go to London to play.
You play the Jets.
The Jets, which is a home game for us, which that kind of sucks to lose that. Then we have the bye week after the London game. And then I think we go, then there's another game in there, and then it's the Rams. So essentially we play 6 games before that game. And I was like, man, if we can just get to that game at 3-3, like that'll be fun. I'll want to go see that game. Now it's like, we can get to that game at like 5-1, and the Rams have nobody on offense. Like the Rams are just absolutely in tatters. I'm like, oh boy, like this is getting really interesting. So I'm pumped up about that.
When did you decide to go? Or like,
Evan got me tickets for I think it was for Christmas last year. He was like, once he saw that the schedule broke out that way, he was like, hey, I'll get you tickets.
Like, okay,
yeah. So I'm like, sweet. I'll probably go with a friend down here or whatever. I'll figure it out. But I'm excited for that. And I'm like, all of a sudden, we might win that shit. Niners at Rams. Rams are a mash unit. Niners are favored by 7. I think you guys should win comfortably. Yes, there's McCaffrey out, Deebo Samuel out. Look at the Rams right now. I mean, no Cup, no Nakua.
Either Arizona's a wagon or the Rams should just punt.
Oh my God. The Rams offensive line right now is like, you're talking 3rd, 4th string at multiple positions.
I'm not trying to I don't, because I never get ahead of myself with like any game, just because I mean, any given Sunday, but like if this isn't like 38-7, in my opinion, because again, going to be a home game. Get your silent count ready, offensive line. I mean, there's no one playing for the Rams.
Yeah. And I'm kind of surprised it's only 7, given they're the home team. It's like, yes, it is physically played in Los Angeles, but it'll be all there. I hate to say this, I really do. There was a lot of Niner fans in Minnesota last week. Like that was shocking.
Was there?
Oh man.
I remember recognizing it last year, and Kyle said it post game, like
the Niners travel way better than they used to.
Yeah, it's great because like the Niners have always been like, I mean, you know, they do well TV merch and all that stuff, but like I don't remember them being like a Pittsburgh, like Steelers fans.
Dallas.
Like I remember watching Steelers when they played Atlanta week 1. I'm like, that thing was like towels everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's Atlanta. It's not even close. Like, are you guys really flying there? Like, we need all this money. And no, I saw something like, I guess that like Vivid Seats place tells you like they projected the Niners were going to have 34% of the fans in Minnesota. I saw like a couple days before the game.
Yeah.
Which is honestly like
that's huge.
When they go to LA, like it's
94.
80, like like projected like 80, 85, and then it looks like 90 plus.
Yeah. It's insane. I really couldn't believe there was a few plays in the second quarter where it looked like we were going to take a big lead. And I was like, man, like we're not quite silent count, but like it's loud and we're on offense. Like this is weird. Multiply that by 5, and that's what you're going to get this weekend at SoFi.
You're going to hear defense.
I saw Green Day at SoFi last weekend. Unbelievable show. That's by far my favorite band. It is so loud in there. Like they designed that place the way the Seahawks did.
I noticed it with football, like especially when the Niners are there. I do feel like they crank the noise. Like, let's get ready for second down. I'm like, there's no reason to scream. That's like
whose house?
Yeah, like it's tough.
Yeah, they should roll. They really should. I feel really good about the Niners this week. If we'll talk about it in the picks later, I might have to throw them in there. Some marquee games next week. Like you said, Chargers at Pittsburgh, 2-0 versus 2-0. Philly at New Orleans, 2-0 versus 2-0. Baltimore at Dallas. Both teams absolutely have to have that game. That's, Brady and Burkhardt there. That's going to be an unbelievable one. And then Sunday Night Football, KC at Atlanta. If Atlanta wins that one, it's off to the races. So really good marquee games. You want to hit any of those?
NFC South.
Good for them.
I mean, they got the worst team in the history of the NFL in it, but potentially good teams. I mean, who knows what to make of the Saints? I don't know. They played Carolina, but they look pretty good. And
Derek Carr's on pace for
Baker Mayfield. Might be a top 3 MVP candidate right now. After 2 weeks.
Oh, like we all thought, Mayfield and Carr.
Which doesn't mean anything, but
the new Brady and Manning.
No, the Ravens Dallas is because can Dallas stop Baltimore? I mean, giving up 44 to the Saints, but also Ravens, I mean, you're staring at 0-3 in the face. I don't care what Dallas did last week. It's not hard. It's not easy to win in Dallas, at least in September.
Don't you feel like if the Ravens were 1-1 or 2-0 going into this game, and that Dallas would be like -1 or -3 or something, but because the Ravens absolutely have to have it, it's like Ravens are favored. Like it just feels like the betting market is like, God, there's no way Harbaugh and Jackson lose this one, right? Like they can't.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they throw me off with losing to the Raiders at home. I don't know.
They couldn't lose that one either.
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I'm just curious. Who do they have after Dallas?
Yeah, pull up their schedule because we got to go through that. I was looking at Lamar's career record.
Somebody said today I saw they're like, if it goes super south, like it'll be like look at Belichick to be their coach. I'm like,
that's Harbaugh's a top 5 or 6 guy.
I was like, yeah, I'm like, you're gonna fire him. I mean,
yeah, no, not a chance.
Oh my God. They get Buffalo on Sunday Night Football.
Week 4?
Week 4.
Ow.
After that, at Cincinnati.
Okay.
And then they get Washington at home. Okay, fine.
Maybe they're 0-5 at that point.
Then after that, at Tampa on Monday Night Football. At
Not
Cleveland.
Easy. Not easy. Holy moly.
And then they get Denver at home. Okay. But then they play Cincinnati again. They go at Pittsburgh, at the Chargers, Philly.
Oh, okay.
And they have the Giants. Okay, that'll be automatic win. And then finish with Pittsburgh, Houston, Cleveland.
Man.
I mean, for being a good team, I mean, like, if they don't fix it, I mean, they're looking at like a 7-10.
11. Yeah. Wow. I did not look at their schedule like that.
If you lose to the Raiders, like,
there's 3
possible.
There's 3 games on there that they should win going away, and then every other one of those they could conceivably lose big. Like, not looking good for Baltimore there. I would look if you're looking for a bet there, maybe Baltimore like under 7 wins, under 8 wins at big money. Like, go for it. That's really unbelievable. Let's do your Jack in the Bum of the week before we make some picks. Obviously, this is week 2. We've kind of made up on our mind on a lot of stuff, and we start to see the trend line. So, like I said, week 1 we were so down on Atlanta. We now understand that was just a blip. This is more accurate representation of who they are. There's a few teams, though, that we now through 2 weeks know enough. We've seen enough. The Cowboys is one of my candidates for Jack in the Bum of the week. They were awful. They gave up 44. I think they gave up 5 touchdowns in the first half to New Orleans with time to spare. New Orleans could have put up 50, 55, 60 in that game if they wanted to, but they completely took the foot off the gas in the second half. The Colts run defense, this would have been my pick if I was doing Jack in the Bum of the week. You're playing against Malik Willis. What I would say in my lifetime, top 5 worst quarterback I've ever seen play NFL snaps, up there with Nathan Peterman and guys like that. Like, horrible. And it was like, I think the defensive coordinator there is Gus Bradley, the former Seahawks guy. Just completely clueless. The other team is not going to throw the ball, ever. Just stack the line. No, they didn't. They gave up, I believe, 163 rushing yards in the first quarter. Absolutely putrid. They lost the game to Malik Willis. Just disgusting.
Yes, that's tough.
That's a bad look, folks. The Ravens got to be on that list, losing to the Raiders at home. Really, for Harbaugh and Lamar, that's as bad as it gets for them in their era. Like, I believe
Top of losing, blowing a 10-point lead.
Yeah, blowing a 10-point. I believe Jackson is something like 68-19 or something as a starter. Other than the playoff games, I can't think of a worse one than that. Trevor Lawrence is just perennially on this list because, I mean, he's not that guy. You know, the money he gets, the acclaim he gets, people try to put him in the top 7, top 8 quarterbacks in the league. That dude is Ryan Tannehill, maybe worse. I mean, you're looking at previous quarterbacks, you know, who've been in the level of play that you see from Trevor Lawrence on a weekly basis. Again, to me, his ceiling is like, you know, a Tannehill type, a game manager. Like that dude, nothing special. Yet again, he did it this week against the Browns. But you're going with one of the biggest busts in the history of football.
Yeah, this guy would kill to be Trevor Lawrence. I mean, kind of an obvious jack in the bone for me. It's kind of been just a really tough week. But yeah, Bryce Young. I mean, a complete just thud. I mean, it's beyond being just terrible. It looks awful. Like if that makes any sense. It looks awful. To get benched after 2 weeks with a new head coach. New head coach probably had a whole plan. Here we go. We're going to fix Bryce Young. Like, they want to.
Number one overall picks, 16 months ago?
Yeah. I mean, and then on top of that, the stuff coming out like, oh, he's pissed. And we're all blaming Carolina here. Like, look, ownership on down, place probably is a dumpster fire. I'm not going to ignore that.
Mm-hmm.
However, some of this is on you, quite a bit. I mean,
stats are bad. The eye test is worse.
You complete 18 passes with 84 yards. Where are we throwing the ball?
So I want to talk about this real quick. I am one of the biggest Adam Thielen fans of all time. Unbelievable player, great dude, locker room glue guy, one of the all-time favorite players for me and many Viking fans. To make him throw his helmet off and throw an absolute tantrum, shit's got to be so bad behind the scenes.
Did
and
they
on
vote
the
him a captain? Not Thielen, but Bryce Young?
I believe they did. I think he was wearing the captain's patch there. But, I mean, like I'm saying, man.
Yeah, no, he is.
Unbelievable.
2-time captain. So both times? Huh?
Can you believe that?
I just don't get. This just bending the knee to these quarterbacks. So what if your quarterback's not a captain? I don't like Caleb Williams, you're captain, brother, throw a touchdown pass. I don't get it. Bryce Young, they're in the quarterback market.
But to me right now, top 3 bust of all time. He's not Ryan Leaf. He's not Jamarcus Russell. He's close. He's got to be third. I can't think of any.
To be honest, I might want to put him the worst just because there's nothing else. Right.
There was addiction problems with the other two.
He basically said I was overweight. I did not care.
Yeah.
There's okay.
Yeah,
so
Leaf was I was an addict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bryce Young, you mean to tell me you're grinding every day, lifting weights, dedicated, and you still look this bad? It's if you're Carolina, you're hey, man, this guy, dude, he's just on the sauce every day, late to every meeting. They're no, he's here, first guy in, last guy out, just still ain't getting it. Like me with algebra, just all the time, not getting it.
I'm giving everything I got, and nothing's happening. No, you called it from the very beginning that he was just too small to play in the league. But beyond that,
he does nothing.
He does nothing good.
I don't feel good about I don't feel good piling because he's had a tough week. But I'm pretty sure he doesn't listen to us. So, yeah, he does nothing special.
And he never has. It was always he has the it factor at Alabama. Okay, he's 5'8", 5'9", very slight, not built. He does the thing that frustrates me the most is he's one of those college quarterbacks who always operated from shotgun. So in the NFL, it's almost always shotgun or pistol. He never, ever steps up in the pocket because he's terrified. There's dudes that are 6'6", 350 right in front of him. He's 5'9", 160.
Sometimes it really is that simple. Legitimately, ask yourself, even if you were a pro football player, you were his size.
I'd be terrified.
I really want to step up in the pocket against some of these. You imagine they run the stunt, out comes the God forbid that's Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons coming from the edge right up the gut, and it's just you just be crushed.
Yeah. Like we saw with Caleb Williams on Sunday Night Football last week.
And he's bigger.
He took 3 or 4 of the hardest hits I've seen a quarterback take in a long time. But he's a bigger dude, so he absorbed it. He got up. He was very frustrated, and he's looking at his teammates what the fuck? But he got up. If those exact same hits happen to Bryce Young, he ain't getting up. I mean,
even look at Kyler Murray, who's probably smaller, like shorter. He's thick.
and he
never gets hit.
Yeah.
Oh, and on top of that, like, I mean, with the baseball thing, I mean, he throws one of the most pretty passes you could see.
And somehow shifts around and gets out of, after having multiple surgeries on his lower body, still as elusive as anyone.
Side note, he looks fantastic.
Oh, Kyler Murray looks great right now. And I'm not a huge fan of the dude, but what an unbelievable start to the season for that guy. He looks like he's 100% healthy. Good for him. But Bryce Young, Jack in the Bum of the Week, multiple times now. I mean, the Panthers have had multiple, Tepper won it once, Frank Reich won it once, but that's 2 for Bryce Young, and that's probably the last time he'll ever win it because I don't know if he ever plays meaningful snaps in the NFL again. So there it is, Bryce Young, Joey's Jack in the Bum of the Week for week 2 in the NFL. Let's go to the You Like That picks. Joey, I need your help. I went 1-4 last week. We're 3-6-1 on the season. This is a very slow start to the year. I got caught up in all the week 1 hype. I picked a lot of favorites. I picked teams that looked really good in week 1. I should have been picking on preseason expectations rather than what we saw in week 1. So let's get back to basics here. I'm going to read off some picks that I like. If you don't like any of these, maybe we replace it with another pick. So let's start with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh -1 at home against the Chargers. I thought they'd be 2.5 3-point favorites at home with the way they've been playing so far. Tomlin's doing his Tomlin thing of winning close games. Do you like that one at home against the Jags? I'm sorry, against the Chargers?
I don't know. Because I just think, like, betting Justin Fields is still, like, I mean, they're not. Well, they beat Denver last week, and they, I watched them play Atlanta, and, like, TJ Watt and their defense really won in that game.
Yeah.
But then again, I also, like, I know the Chargers are 2-0, and they're running the football with Harbaugh, but I don't know. I mean, they're even saying Easton Stick might play.
Yeah, Herbert has
like
more
either.
foot problems.
So
that's one we'll mark it off. We may keep it.
mean,
We might take it off. That's a shaky one. Vikings +3. They're at home in Minnesota. Going to be a great home field advantage. Texans don't have a lot of traveling fans. I really like that, catching the full 3 with Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores. These are 2 good coaching staffs, but being at home and getting 3 points, I really like that. What do you think about that one?
I really like it for this individual. It's just I really like this individual game, but it's just part of me thinks, like, I personally believe Texans are a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when do they start to look better? But I don't know if it's this week.
Yeah, I feel like they need a home game against, like, Jacksonville.
Plus, it's interesting. The Texans, obviously with D'Amico, and then they have Bobby Sloak, the former Niner guy, running their offense. The interesting thing that I've noticed, like, Kyle does really well against his assistants. McDaniel, well, I only played him once, beat him, but beat Saleh once. And other than that one game that mattered, he's, beat McVay quite a bit, and LaFleur. Mm-hmm. But the one guy he never coached, but he runs the same scheme pretty much, who worked for McVay, is Kevin O'Connell. The Niners can't stop it.
Yeah.
And Minnesota's had no problem scoring on the Niners defense. I wonder if the same scheme problems happen with Houston.
Because it's essentially a Niners acolyte team over there.
They're not probably the same. Obviously, the Niners probably a lot more committed to the run than Houston's.
Right.
Probably could more air it out, but still, yeah.
It's a good fit. I just think it's a good fit. And I rarely take my own team in a bet, but it just feels it's the worst, because then you got the possibility of a double whammy. But I like Minnesota there. Here's one that I think we're both going to like. Arizona +3 at home against Detroit. The Cardinals offense, man, this is a game where we will learn a ton. Like, either the Arizona offense is the new greatest show on turf, or the Rams are such a mass unit that they make everybody look good, given all their injuries right now. I think Detroit being kind of banged up, Goff has not looked very good through 2 weeks. This is just a good spot at home for Arizona. I kind of like them to keep this one close and maybe win the game outright. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think they win.
Yeah, I really thought that would be like maybe Arizona -1 or something, but it's Detroit -3. So give me Arizona +3 there. Baltimore -1. Lamar and Harbaugh in a must-win season-defining game. I will take the pedigree of those guys who are just winners over Prescott and McCarthy, who they built up a lot of goodwill with that week 1 win and then just shat it all away last week against New Orleans. Like, I feel like this is a spot where maybe things kind of go back to what we thought at the beginning of the season. Baltimore is good. Dallas is mediocre. Like, it's a good spot for Baltimore here. If it's not here, it's not going to happen this year. What do you think of Baltimore?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this game at all. I don't know what to make it. Like, maybe the Saints are really good. I like Dallas. It's in Dallas. If this game was in Baltimore, I would definitely lean Baltimore. But in Dallas,
indoors on the fast track.
Yeah. I also think, I don't know, like, it's been a while, I feel like, since, he used one of my favorite, like, little butts a little tight, maybe in Baltimore. I mean, we just went over their schedule. I mean, if they go to 0-3, I mean,
they do not come back from that. Maybe they get to like 9-8 and squeak in as a 7 seed. Maybe they lose this game. Oof. Any thoughts of the Super Bowl or a playoff run are out the door? No doubt. That's kind of why I want to pick them. I think this is a game where Harbaugh puts his nuts on the table and just you're going to see fucking fake field goals and fake punts and shit. I feel that that's coming. So we're definitely in on the Vikings and Cardinals. Baltimore and Pittsburgh, we're deciding. Here's another opportunity here. Niners -7 at the Rams. Home game for the Niners, 80+% Niner fans. Rams as banged up as it gets. The offensive line for the Niners is still healthy. The defensive line is still healthy. Yes, they're missing McCaffrey, and yes, they're missing Debo, but I really feel like this is one where they got to put the hammer down. I do too, but I hate picking my team. Yeah.
And 7, I don't care how you hit it. 7's a big number.
And then Atlanta +3.5 on Sunday Night Football against Kansas City. Kansas City should be 1-1, maybe 0-2. Atlanta showed me a lot last week with that game-winning drive for Cousins. I think it's a good spot for Atlanta. I think Kansas City's ripe for a loss. I think they're gearing it down. I don't think they're showing their best stuff. They're waiting for January. Pacheco's hurt. This guy Carson Steele that everyone and their mother picked up in fantasy football this week, who's the replacement for Pacheco. I've watched him through those first 2 games. Undrafted rookie free agent who's fumbled. I see nothing there that's any good. I think they're going to take a step back this week. Obviously, Mahomes is a beast, but Hollywood Brown out for the year. Vibes are not great in Kansas City right now. I think they lose this one. So I feel pretty comfortable about that one. So Baltimore -1, Pittsburgh -1. Any preference on that? I also thought maybe a little bit about Philly +3 at New Orleans. New Orleans is favored by 3.
No chance.
No chance. Okay, so which one of those?
I mean, with Philly's defense in the dome, I think the Saints might.
The only reason I was thinking that is Philly was favored by 3 before Monday Night Football kicked off. After Monday Night Football, now they're a 3-point underdog. I was like, that's a big swing. Like, if Barkley makes that catch, that line is probably Philly -2.5. But no, I think you're right. I think you've seen enough on that defense to declare that they're.
I don't know. I feel better about Pittsburgh. I don't know why, especially if Herbert don't play.
All right, let's do it. So we're going to do Pittsburgh -1, and we're going to drop Baltimore. So let's just go over it real quick here. All right, here are the You Like That picks for week 3 of the NFL season. We're going to go the Vikings +3 at home against the Houston Texans. We're going Pittsburgh -1 at home against the Chargers. Arizona +3 at home. They're hosting. I'm blanking on it now. Arizona's hosting who? Detroit, sorry. Yeah. Detroit's all banged up. We'll take Arizona +3. And then SF -7 against the MASH unit Rams in LA, even though it's a home game for the Niners. And then Atlanta +3.5 on Sunday Night Football against Kansas City. That's your You Like That picks of the week for week 3 in the NFL. So we'll try to get better from our 3-6-1 start. Let's get 4-1 there and get back to 500. Joey, it's time for Feels Great Baby, a wireless take you feel best about currently. Boy, I feel like over the last year and a half, we have harped on this team more than anyone in the podcast universe. But here you go.
Probably because they're kind of irrelevant, but they're so. Yeah, I feel pretty good about the Carolina Panthers being the worst team in NFL history. I think they go 0-17. They're terrible. They're awful. They're losing. I mean, in a weird way, like they went to Andy Dalton. Like Andy Dalton can't play worse.
Oh, it's impossible.
So maybe they squeak one. Watch, I'm going to say this. They're going to beat the Raiders this week. The Raiders probably thought they won the Super Bowl beating Baltimore, come home. I think it's the Raiders home opener.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, they're terrible. They lost two. They lost their D tackle, Derek Brown, for the season.
Probably their best defensive player.
Yeah. They're toast.
You look back at the truly bad teams in the NFL, and it's like, okay, the Hugh Jackson Browns, the Rod Marinelli Lions, and you go, they were bad at everything. And not just horrible quarterback play with freaking Deshaun Kaiser and fucking Dan Orlovsky or whatever, but just bad at everything across the board. No talent anywhere. And boy, does this team fit that mold.
Yeah, I mean, they got nothing. They got nothing. I don't know.
You mean Xavier Legette and 36-year-old Adam Thielen? That's not doing it for you?
No. And I mean,
what about Chuba Hubbard? Ooh, not good.
McCaffrey's probably thrilled he got out of there. I don't know.
Bring Cam Newton back.
He might be their best player.
He would be their best player. He's like 35.
Sell some jerseys.
Yeah, out of the league for 2 years.
Isn't that though? I don't know why I just thought about it. But isn't that such a contrast in quarterbacks styles? Right?
Oh, yeah.
You have Bryce Young, who probably looks as big as one of Cam Newton's legs. Cam Newton's like, I mean, you talk about it like there's like really good players, obviously, but then you just talk about freak athletes.
Yeah.
Cam Newton's got to be up like
top 10 all time. Yeah.
I mean,
versus Bryce Young, bottom 15 ever.
Someone, I don't know who it was, if it was a podcast I saw on TV, was talking about like they were standing next to or like met Cam Newton. And the guy was like not a small guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he's like, I looked at this guy and I'm like, he's like, what the hell is this? Like, I mean, just
it's like you with Joe Thornton, where you're like, that's a very large man.
You know what's crazy with him? I was more like just be like, holy shit. I'm like next to him when I met him a couple times, but he's actually quite thin. Like a lot of hockey players are, they just look big with all their pads.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Cam Newton, I mean, just tall and I mean, redwood
6'6",
trees.
245, yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
And
Towards the end of his career, much bigger.
But I mean, his peak, like that 2015, like Superman, like, I mean, you talk about the opposite. Like, what about like running QB power? And here comes Cam Newton, and like a linebacker's like, holy shit. But he probably would make Josh Allen look small.
Oh yeah, yeah. We talk about Josh Allen and Richardson and some of these guys being just massive quarterbacks. Cam Newton's a one of one, and then you have frickin' Bryce Young. They both wore the same number too? You're thinking about it, right? Yeah, because Bryce Young wears number 1, right?
No, he wears number 9.
Oh, 9. Oh, okay, right. Yeah, that makes sense. I was just like,
I would be like, are they giving out Cam Newton's number? I mean, do you think he'd probably get maybe his number retired?
Yeah, I don't know who else would. I mean, Steve Smith. Maybe.
I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, like Carolina, probably the standard's probably not super
not that high.
I can see, yeah, Steve Smith's probably got it retired.
Yeah.
Maybe like Luke Kuechly, maybe, probably. You know,
but man, so you think they go 1-17?
I don't know, because now actually I'm thinking about it, like Andy Dalton might, but then he also might be terrible too. I don't know.
What a thankless job, too.
Well, you thought maybe they'd win some games in the division, but the division might be pretty darn good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, before the year, there was a lot of professional bettors who have podcasts, who post on Twitter or whatever, who were trying to say Carolina was going to be sneaky good. And, like, nobody believed it.
I said that last year.
Yeah. And we're like, nah, this team's going to be terrible. But you're right. It does shake you off the scent a little bit now that they're going with a more competent quarterback. But still, I mean, Dalton hasn't been relevant since, what, 2018?
If Bryce Young was not a first overall pick, or he probably would have been cut.
Yeah. I mean, he's still got 2.5 years left on that rookie deal. Like, I wonder if they ever go back to him. Dalton would have to get hurt or be
Oh,
awful.
I don't think he's not playing. I don't think he's done playing a snap. They're gonna go back eventually.
Oh my
They
God.
have to. Like, it's worth it. Like, what I mean, they have to try.
It feels a lot like Zach Wilson. Like, there's no point in doing it. Like, just
Be
cut
fair to Zach Wilson, he did look better than this. Not much.
Oof.
I mean, and then
Man, there's just, I feel like when we were kids, there were, and this will go to our next topic. When we were kids, I don't remember guys being this bad, this quick, this often. Like,
well, they also
Zach
just never
Wilson
even played like this quick.
That's true. When we were kids, they would sit a year or two. But it's like, man, Zach Wilson, immediately awful, never gets better.
I also think the college game is becoming a lot different than, like, it's the spread. It's like you said, the shotgun, the pistol. They come here and it's like, holy shit. Like,
the one other thing too is, like, I think this will improve going forward. I think we're at an all-time low point for quarterback play in the NFL, just because up until this season, because of the Connor Stallions saga, there were no green dots in college football. Now there are. There are, offensive coordinators talking to the quarterback in the helmet. Before, it used to have to be signals because of the whole Connor Stallions thing. They ended that, and they said, okay, I know it's a lot of money, but we're going to get the Rydell helmets with communication in them for one player on defense, one player on offense. They had to implement that in college. I think that will help quarterbacks develop more in college. But, like, right now, this goes to the topic I was going to have for our closing discussion. We are at an all-time low, at least in our lifetime, in quarterback play. And I wanted to illustrate this by talking about, let's see where we were 15 years ago versus now, the 2009 season. So I'm going to list to you the top 20 quarterbacks in the 2009 season. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, Kurt Warner, Phillip Rivers, Tony Romo, Eli Manning, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, Joe Flacco, Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, Jay Cutler, Matt Hasselbeck, David Garrard, Alex Smith, and the league's passing leader that year, Matt Schaub, with 4,770 yards. That's 15 years ago. That's 20 legit quarterbacks that every team that had that guy was like, I'm okay with having this guy on my team.
You know what's crazy? I think that the talk about them, about quarterbacks now, is so different. Like, I feel like some of those guys, I'd have to look at their numbers, but I think some of those, like, people, if they were playing today, like,
you think they would get more criticism now than they did then?
Like I think back then, I think teams and just the talk, like, people were happy with, like, a guy like, this guy's probably going to the Hall of Fame, but, like, Eli Manning, right?
Yeah.
He's pretty, like, good, like, regular seasons.
B minus, yeah.
Yeah, with Kirk Cousins, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's Kirk Cousins with a couple, like, again, humongous difference, won a couple Super Bowls. But, like, I'm of the opinion Kirk Cousins could do that with the right team, But now, if Eli Manning does that, they're like, oh my God, like, let's draft a guy like
I
Anthony
agree.
Richardson.
That's an excellent point.
Let's draft Anthony Richardson. Well, then you get Anthony Richardson, who played, like, very little games in college.
Yeah.
Came here as a very raw prospect. Like, he's a project. Then he start week one.
Yeah.
And, like,
he'll
throw like 70-yard bombs, but then he'll also look like.
And a lot of those guys that I was listing off in the 2009 season, they started on the bench their first 2, 3, 4 seasons. And a lot of these guys nowadays don't get that luxury. But my point is looking back at that time in 2009, I think almost every one of those guys I just listed, that team's fans would say, I am happy or hopeful with our state of our quarterback play. And I look at this year. So look at the young guys. Bo Nix has been awful. He could be great. Who knows? Early returns are atrocious. Richardson. Last year there was some hope. He showed some flashes. Week 1 this year, he actually had 2 unbelievable throws. But on the whole, through 6 games in his career, not good. Horrible returns. Bryce Young, Jamarcus Russell level bust. He just is. Will Levis through whatever 10, 12 games.
Hates him.
So bad. so bad. Daniel Jones, atrocious, should not be starting in the league right now. You keep going down the list. Justin Fields can't complete a forward pass. Trevor Lawrence, absolute bust. I don't care if he turns it around and makes me look like a fool. I'm not worried about that happening at all. I just don't think he's very good. Caleb Williams, show me something, man. Through 2 weeks, I'm like, he's not Bryce Young, but he's not much better.
Like people were. I mean, there was some things about Caleb, like the off-field stuff, like not like he's like a criminal or anything, but I don't know how to explain it. You just see people and you're like,
yes,
and like from like day one, like when I just seen him on talk on TV or just do interviews, just how body language, like, and I'm just like, it'd be so much easier to describe if you like committed a crime or something, but like just like not getting it.
Yeah.
Like,
this guy gonna lead a group of men.
And again, maybe I'm wrong. He was voted a captain.
Apparently that happens to everybody, but who knows? My point is the level of quarterback play is down right now. I think it's possibly because these guys don't run pro-style offenses or even get play calls in their headsets or get proper coaching in college, and it's an absolute culture shock when they get to the NFL. But the lack of performance from those guys and other recent draft picks who are now out of the league, essentially, with like Zach Wilson, guys like that, it makes guys like Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins, Dak, Geno look like extremely competent, very good quarterbacks, when I think in reality, in a normal, healthy NFL environment, those guys would be borderline, like Tannehill used to be, guys like that, where it's like, well, like Jimmy G, like he's the starter now, but we got to find a replacement for him. But right now, teams like New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Seattle, Cowboys, Atlanta, they're like, nah, we're good with this. This is good for what's going on in the NFL these days. I just think it's shocking, and I wanted to make the point, and I know you're going to get mad at this, but I think you drop Brock Purdy in 2009 as he currently is now. He's like the 17th to 22nd best quarterback back then. And right now I have him as 7th in the NFL. I just think that the gap between what was and what is in the NFL right now is big enough to where he is 10, 12, 15 spots higher in the quarterback power rankings than he would have been in kind of that golden era of NFL quarterback play. I think we're at an all-time low right now, and it's making guys who would normally be average seem like world beaters.
It's just too, I think teams are looking, they want more athletes than quarterback, like pocket pass. Like I don't think if a guy like Eli Manning, or Joe Flacco was coming out like now, they'd be like, what a statue. They'd be like
they'd be drafting the 4th round.
Yeah. And it like they just, when I think we might be, well, my point is, I think we might be pivoting back to like, oh, let's go back to what this position is supposed to be doing, throwing the football, and like, let's draft some of these guys that play 2, 3, 4 years in college, like have a lot of reps, like know what they're like, seeing. I mean, Baker Mayfield was the first, but he was like a walk-on, like Texas Tech and then Oklahoma, like played a lot in college, like, and
Purdy
now
played
we're drafting
4 full years.
We're drafting Trey Lance, who played 17 games in like Division II or whatever, and Anthony Richardson plays 12, whatever he did in the SEC. I mean, granted, at least this was in the SEC.
Will Levis only played 1 season. He left Penn State because he couldn't beat out Sean Clifford for the starting quarterback job and had to transfer. That's the kind of guy that you invest draft capital in. Pretty crazy.
It is.
Daniel Jones, I believe, at Duke only played 1 full season. Mitchell Trubisky, I mean, I think he only played like 10 games at North Carolina. It's crazy what these teams are doing right, and it shows. It's like that. There's a really, since the Mahomes Watson draft until now, like when has there been a draft where there's been several good quarterbacks? Like it's just not happening with the same frequency. Like for every CJ Stroud, there's 5 just absolute disasters.
The one with Burrow and Herbert probably decent.
Yeah.
Tua. I mean, he's decent, but I'm not putting him with the other 2. Was there someone? Oh, was that Lamar Jackson too?
No, Lamar was 17, I believe. 20. No,
Oh,
18.
yeah, that's right.
18.
He was the end
Yeah.
of the one with Mahomes, right?
Yeah, he was the
Or
32nd
no, no,
pick.
no, 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 no.
No, he was
He was the last one
2018.
with. He was with Darnold, Baker, and those
Yeah.
guys.
Mahomes and Watson was 17. And then, yeah, Darnold, Baker, Lamar was at the end of that draft, 2018. Yeah. It's crazy. There's that whole era that's kind of been like, remember the draft where it was like Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis? Which one do you prefer? Like those guys should not be on an NFL roster. We've seen enough. Like it's pretty crazy, man. I really think because like back when we
Like
used
they're
to
still
start,
getting $60 million a year.
yeah, we used to start watching football together. That we didn't realize it at the time. That is the all-time peak of NFL quarterback play. It was like every game
I mean,
had
like
either
we're comparing it to 2009. I mean, look at these names. I mean,
yeah,
the first five.
Brady, Manning, Breeze, Favre, Rodgers, all of those were MVP candidates that season. And then other guys at
I mean,
different
the guy
points in their
listed
career.
what 10th is Matthew Stafford.
It's insane.
And like, say what you want about.
And by the way,
Jay
that
Cutler had a hose.
yeah.
Like,
There's one guy that's not on that list who came within a couple plays of making the Super Bowl that year, and Mark Sanchez. Not a good quarterback, but he and Matt Schaub that
great
year.
on TV though. I like Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, I do like him, but I'm like, back then, man. Oh man, it's just, it really is shocking. Like every single game back then had a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback in it on one of the teams, and now it's like, okay, Mahomes, probably Burrow, probably Allen, probably Lamar,
I think
maybe
you make a
Herbert.
good point with the coaching stuff because, like, you could name. It's hard to top like the first like I mean you go Brady, Manning, Breeze, Favre, Roger. I mean that's probably five of the best 7 or 8 ever.
Yeah.
Maybe like you want to give or take some other guys, but I mean you could throw right now. I mean, do you think? I don't think they're less talented. I mean you could throw Mahomes, like Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin talent wise. I mean.
More dynamic, but are they better quarterbacks? I mean, Mahomes, yes, but Mahomes I'd put in the top, 6 or 7 already and has the potential to be 1 or 2 all time. But like beyond that, I'm thinking, and you made this point earlier, guys like Burrow that I worship the ground he walks on. I think he's one of the, has the potential to be one of the great clutch performers, one of the great players in NFL history. He has been not good this year. He's clearly not healthy. Last year, he wasn't really himself.
Yeah,
Josh Allen,
I guess
loose
you're right.
with the ball.
I agree with that.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying it's like you're saying. You go through that list. Okay, nowadays the second tier of quarterbacks is populated by Dak and Cousins and Carr and Mayfield and Geno and all these guys. Here's the second tier in 2009. Roethlisberger, first ballot Hall of Famer. Warner, first ballot Hall of Famer. Phillip Rivers, likely Hall of Famer. Eli Manning, likely Hall of Famer. Matt Ryan, possible Hall of Famer. Matthew Stafford, possible Hall of Famer. Frickin' Tony Romo, Joe Flacco, Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, Jay Cutler. Like, these are good football players that back then we were like, man, I wouldn't mind having him.
Kind of, we can go on like forever, but like, I mean, obviously Mahomes is in the Hall of Fame and probably sitting at the first table.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you might be making a point like here because the guys you think are good, but then you really look at like
okay.
This is you picked a tough year to like.
That's what I'm saying. I said 15 years ago. This was my peak of NFL fandom, by the way. It was like 09, the 09 Vikings with Favre, where he threw 33 touchdowns and 7 picks, and we should have gone to the damn Super Bowl. But like, I remember looking back at that year and all of our important games. We played Romo, we played Breeze, we played Rodgers, we played. I remember the probably the best game of the year was against Joe Flacco in like week 6 for us to stay undefeated. Unbelievable game. Back when Flacco, who I would say at that point is the 15th or 18th best quarterback in the league, that dude threw one of the best deep balls in the history of the NFL. And this is a guy who at that point wasn't very good. Like we were like, I think at that point that was his second year in the NFL. He was about to go to his second AFC, divisional playoff game and championship game. Like that, it's bad right now. I'm just saying. I look around the league. Brock Purdy leads the league in passing with 550 passing yards. He's averaging 275 a game. Like through 2 weeks in 2013, I'm pretty sure Peyton Manning had like 1,000 passing yards. Like we are way, way, way down.
Well,
like,
the thing I will say though is what they have said is the running the ball is up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about like.
And defenses are better.
Defenses, I do. It's all cyclical. I mean, for a bit here, I thought we were getting out of control with like roll out of bed, the 16th best quarterback in the league is throwing for 5,000. Like, what are we doing? And maybe the defenses, plus on top, the defenses start to scheme up like we're running out 6 DBs, and some of these coordinators are like, fine, we're going with 2 tight ends and we're going to push you around.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. That era where, like I said, Matt Schaub threw for almost 5,000 yards, that's a little ridiculous. But, I mean, where we're at now, we're on pace to have, like, Purdy lead the league in passing at right around 4,000. Like you said,
Green Bay, rolling out Malik Willis. Okay, Josh Jacobs is going to run for whatever you said, 160 in the first quarter.
Insane.
That's what I do love about football. It's just like, okay, cool. Like, you got all this super, like, on ones, like, well, we're going to, like, run this. It's like chess.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. You're running like or you're Packers got all these, I know they don't have, but when they have Jordan Love, all the receivers, whatever, spread it out and then it's like, no, we also could 2 tight ends, fullback, here we go, line up in the I formation and
slam it.
Tell defense, hey, we're running left and you're not gonna stop it.
Like the 49ers in the 2019 NFC Championship game. Like, we're going to run that way. We're going to run that way.
Sometimes it's like, we're running left, guys. On 2. See if you can stop it.
Yeah. Trent Williams is just like, hello. I will be moving you backward.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about that before we close the pod, just because, yes, 2009 was an exceptional year, but, I mean, look at how far we've fallen where we now have a league where
I'm not the one getting affected by it, but like if I was like Eli Manning or Philip, I know he's got the media thing now with Peyton and stuff, but if I was a guy like Philip Rivers, I'd be like, Tua's making how much money to do what?
Yeah. Guys like Breeze and Rivers and whatever that are 44, 45 years old are like, shit, man.
Like Dak Prescott,
I could come back.
$60 million a year.
Yeah. Oh, Brady in the booth right now is just like, I am the best or second best right now at age 47, and I haven't worked out in a month. Like, he's watching this. He watched
him. I didn't watch the game, but I heard his broadcast this week was better.
Yeah, he improved. I would say he's getting better. This is a big one for him, that Baltimore-Dallas game. That's everybody in their grandma is going to be watching that one. No, you guys will be watching the decimation of the Rams.
We don't even get it. Well, I mean, you do if you get Sunday ticket, but I'm not paying like $900 for that. I got it last year at the end of the season, and I didn't use it as much as I thought I would. Like I
just got to have Red Zone. I pay for it so that I can have Red Zone and the Vikings. I mean,
see, it makes sense for you. Like, if I was you, I would buy it every year.
I have to have it. It's same with
But like me, there's only so many times where like the game I would be watching is not like already on, or like the Niner game, or like the big game is Sunday night or Monday night or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Big week ahead, guys. Niners trying to get back on track with a what should be a winnable ball game down there in LA, and then the Vikings trying to get to 3-0 improbably against the CJ Stroud Houston Texans. Thanks for listening to this Week 2 recap, Week 3 preview episode. We'll see you guys next week, hopefully recapping a couple more wins for our teams and rolling along here in the 2024 NFL season. See you guys next week.